Evening, everybody. Just really wanted to have a look at this idea of winning and losing can become habits. And what we're going to look at this evening is what happens when the heat comes on. What happens when you get kind of pressure in amateur and in sort of a grassroots environment. So last weekend, unfortunately, the boys kind of fell to another defeat. That means that out of 4 games, we've lost 3 this year, and the other one was cancelled because of a frozen pitch. And on the face of it, you think, oh, we're really on a slide. We're kind of struggling. But actually, like I said last week, the second half performance of the week before was really encouraging. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't around on Saturday to be able to see the boys play, so I've only got sort of second-hand information about how it went. But again, really encouraging. I think there was a really good start to this week. So we're kind of getting bits and pieces. We're getting patches of how we want to play. The information that we want to be putting out across as coaches is going in, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, it's just not getting us over the line. And I think it's really important to remember that winning and losing can become habits. You can get momentum for both of them. Potentially you win games that you shouldn't win, and you end up losing games that you shouldn't lose. And we've seen that quite a lot this season. We've had up and down. We've had lots of injuries, lots of changing of the team, and we're kind of in that bit of an awkward start of the sort of second half of the year, which we see quite a lot. You get quite a lot of people who are carrying knocks over from the first half into this second half, where it just kind of gets on top of them. We've got a lot of chopping and changing, a lot of people kind of changing jobs, moving away, those sort of things. All this sort of new year, new me situation that can happen with kind of grassroots teams. So if you are in this situation that you are picking up losses where hopefully you need to get wins, and ultimately, yes, of course we don't get paid for this, but there is still a league. We're still in a league structure, and there is still a league below us. There is still a threat of relegation that kind of hangs large when you see the number of losses that are coming up. So what do you do? What do you do in this situation? Because, as a coach, you feel the pressure. As a player, you might not feel it so much. But as a coach and as a coaching team, I know that the boys, we don't want to see that. We don't want to see the team slide. It's been a long, hard road to kind of get you to where you want to be. And you don't want to feel like you're going backwards. So what do? You don't want to rip everything up and start again. But one thing that I would suggest that you do is kind of break the cycle. If there is a cycle of things that you are trying to do, if there's a number of things that keep coming up that aren't quite going so well in a game, just doing the same drill and doing the same thing and trying to hammer home a point, you will lose interest from the players. So you've got to break that cycle. You've got to put across the same messages, but in a slightly different way. And remember that madness is doing the same thing and expecting different outcomes, okay? So if you keep hitting your head against that same wall, you're not going to see anything different unless you dramatically change it. And this comes from my other work, but nothing changes if no changes are made. And that's something that we kind of put across quite a lot. So you need to adapt, you need to change. Of course, you've got to have your core principles, and that is massive for me. That is a huge part of me as a coach. I have core principles that I do not want to move away from. I want to instill in people that I coach. But there may be different ways to do that, and kind of hammering home the same point in the same way can really have a negative impact. So be mindful of how you do things, and changing things up and breaking that cycle can be done in more subtle ways than you might think. It's not about tearing everything up and starting again. It might just be tiny changes, subtle little tweaks here and there to what you're doing that potentially helps those players pick up what you are trying to say, pick up that messaging a little bit easier, or see it a different way. And this comes directly from one of our other coaches, this idea of believing in yourself. Believe in the process. Now, I genuinely do believe that the team that I coach will put everything together one week and somebody is going to get an absolute hiding. Because We look great. We had a fantastic training session the other week. Everything looked slick. Everything looked brilliant. No balls dropped. Really great communication. Everything was moving along. And that didn't quite go into the game, but we were close. And I tell you what, if we can put one of those training sessions out against somebody in these next coming weeks, somebody will definitely get a beating on the scoreline, because I genuinely believe in the players and the people that we're doing. This idea that, look, this will come. It will happen. It will come good in the end. And of course, you can't always rely on that. And of course, that relies on a lot of hard work from the people that you are coaching. But first and foremost, maybe think about breaking that cycle a little bit. If you see yourself in the same sort of idea where consistency is a struggle, or you're really struggling to turn those narrow losses into wins, try and think about different ways as a coach of putting those messages across. Doesn't mean changing your core principles or changing that message. It might just be changing how that message is put across to help the players understand it a little bit more. Simplify if you need to, but just try and tweak and change that messaging overall. So if you can think of anything that you're going to make a tiny change with, drop us a comment. It'd be really great to kind of know what you want to be looking for over these next couple of weeks as we head into the latter stages of the season.